Okay. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to tune in today, and your personal story and vibration and what you're working through is also very, very helpful, because as I said, there's going to be more sessions in a small group later, and some of that's connected to ancient civilizations and some recent discoveries and things like that. And therefore, what you identify in your own body being, in your own personal constellation as a multidimensional being, is really helpful, because it's going to be crossing into that. And I also need to say that during this time as well, there's been a global medicine Buddha meditation taking place with the group that I studied Kalachakra with, Kalachakra Tantra, and it's very powerful kind of magic Buddhism. And it's been very interesting. And it's our teacher's birthday, Lama Khentrul Rinpoche, on Sunday. And it's just very interesting, because when we're working on certain things, then there's a big process on it. And it's because there's such a quickening at the moment. So it's interesting, because some of the themes, as we've been exploring Medicine Buddha, I'm not going to try and convert anybody to Buddhism or anything, don't worry, but I just would love you to tune into what we all have, our Medicine Buddha within. They also say that if a person hears about Medicine Buddha and goes into that more cosmic frequency, it can also open up something. Sometimes you knew about it in a past life. It's been very profound. Like Micah, for instance, had a dream one night, just as we'd done a practice, and she didn't know anything about the practice, and it was like, okay, I was like, is it linked to this? And it was totally linked to that. So it's quite big in the cosmic airwaves. And I wanted to say this because I would love if we can open up a space today that goes more deeply as well into trying to see how we can reconcile ripened karma that's maybe ripened in this lifetime. We're in this quickening where we have the propensity to clear old karmic slates. And I always get this insight and feeling that the more mindful we are of that, the higher the outcomes will be. So I would love, because we're in this Medicine Buddha field, in the Medicine Buddha, there are different Medicine Buddhas, and some of them are really distinctly working on poverty streams. So I just want to say a little bit on that. And so some people will have, we can look at people who've been born with no shoes, no nothing, and then they resort to crime. And I mean, we can talk of places like Belfast, Northern Ireland, and lots of places where people can end up in conflict because of poverty. And that's very much the story of Northern Ireland. And these things that then create more karma. So there are a lot of things that when we start off, we've got poverty or we're not in alignment with things, there are further afflictions that may arise. And these are also barriers to us growing. And so within the Medicine Buddha, they're looking at how we can help to clear that for the collective. So it's amazing what we decided we were doing this week, because I didn't know those aspects were within Medicine Buddha. And basically, if we can dedicate what we can find out about ourselves and our coding and what we're clearing for the collective, it's a very right time, because there's a lot of people chanting for this right now. And there's approximately 3 million recitations will have been done by Sunday. So it's, for instance, when we don't have access to the tools, I used to do work in like really fully grand, huge housing estates in Manchester, and the people have no aspiration to get out of the prison that they're in. They have no hope. They live every day without knowing that they could actually, seek a higher lifestyle in whatever way. And I spent many, many years going around the planet looking at suffering in different forms and looking at the barriers of poverty. And we've all got it pretty good. We've got shoes and we've got electricity and all of that. But I think a lot of us are here because not only do we see the injustice of it, but sometimes we have some of that in our field, because we've been born free enough, but there's obstacles to us fully stepping up. And what is the legacy? Is it a karma? Is it ancestral? So I wanted to say that today, because often we look a lot at ancestral stuff, but because the Medicine Buddha thing is so in the field at the moment, maybe you want to look, and I'm not trying to say you need to think that you need to believe in past lives or anything, but you might want to look at if there's something in your life that's ripening, that's preventing you from stepping into your highest being. Because the medicine Buddha work is being done at this moment because they want us to lift the shackles so that we can get the golden age, the true next chapter of this cosmic spaceship going. So the more and more we can go in and do the work, and work out where our cycles of giving and receiving have gone wonky, where it went out of law, where we might be paying a price, that can be really helpful. And there are things like Vedic astrology where you can see things like that in your chart. So I wanted to say that because it could be very easy in this session to just all become victims to perpetrators. And that's not going to get us anywhere, because there's a reason why we're all where we are right now. And I think sometimes we need to remember that, and to have some self-agency within the narrative about, okay, I have this block, but how can I also have a higher aspiration to sort this out? I also see so many people who are working so hard to clear these things, and there's always some saboteur. And obviously we have unconscious patterning and these karmic things, and we have our astrology that can sometimes be holding us back. The cosmos wants us all to lift up now. That's why we're getting all these like curtains being lifted on the inner obstacles. And so I would love for you to all look at this really head on today so that we can make great headway, but also understanding, unfortunately, that, you know, we have been subject to mass experiments. We have been subject to crazy, crazy stuff. And the beautiful thing is it's got us to here where we're like, right, we want our free will and to change something. And we can look at our ancestors and look at some of the awful things that happened to them. And this continued experiment that people have onto other human beings. And we don't need to look very far beyond our own nose right now to see some stuff like that. So it's even more important for us to become free to act and have agency at this time, and to have the means to do that. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, hey? And the cosmos wants us free. And I'm going to tell you that our teacher, Khenpo Rinpoche, he came from a really, really super poor background. And the obstacles to his family practicing the Dharma, you always needed things for your ceremonies. They didn't have it. They were nomadic yak herders. But he managed to accumulate enough merit through using his brain to chant mantras every day while I was herding yak. So he accumulated so many millions of chants. And this is his way of working. Okay, I'm not saying you have to do this. That then the conditions ripened for him, you know, and other things like people would have made them happen for him because he's high vibe. But there are also stories which we have in all lineages about people who were born like mentally deficient, let's call it. And then through their dedication, they've managed to become super gifted, okay, and super erudite. They couldn't string a sentence together. They were known as kind of poor of words. And suddenly their dedication to get better and to work through their karmic hurdles and the afflictions they've been born with in this life, suddenly they became like a superpower version of it. So the cosmos is really wanting us to do the superpower version thing, and it's getting us closer. But that's why I really wanted you to know that this work is taking place right now. And I just finally want to say that it's great we do these things, but I'll tell you something as an observation. So the treasure vase arrived in Ibiza. The person picked it up yesterday. We were going to meet an hour and a half ago. And then her son, there was a situation with her son, so it couldn't happen. That's normally because there are karmic limitations and the propensities are not perfect enough for that artifact to be in the room while the session is taking place. So it's so important at this time that we really look at our own limitations, and we work harder and we dedicate harder in whatever way we do that, if we're an earth keeper giving more to the earth, because these things fundamentally come from when we lost contact with the mother and lost contact with natural law, and some artificial law took over in whatever way that might have come through for wherever parts of us are from. So I encourage you all to think about how you can start later today even, to just give something back to the mother, because it's these cycles of generosity. When we go out of them, we don't create as much as they would say in Buddhism, merit. So what you can start to do, because there wasn't enough merit in this group seemingly for the vase to come today, all right? That's not a bad thing. Nobody's being told off, but that's what happened. Yes, Francesco?
I don't know if that has got any relevance, but I do have a vase here.
Beautiful. You've got one? Perfect.
Yeah.
We got one. Yep.
So
yep.
I can tune it into the room as well. So
yeah, I'll say come it in. So that's good. We have got one. Francesco, thank you for making it. Yeah. And mine is in Ibiza. It's ours. It's in Ibiza. And I wanted it to be the woman who it's with. Her surname is Lakshmi. So I wanted her to have it for a few days anyway. We didn't know when it was going to arrive, and then it suddenly came, and then it didn't come, but it's good it's with her. But I really want you to think we would have had 3 here today, okay, to have a proper triangle. So it's amazing that Francesco has one, and then we will create some sick connection to it, to the. Francesco, do you just want to just show the vase and explain what it's about?
So this is the vase that Victoria probably would have received as well, and they contain sacred relishes and different kind of sacred objects from, I think, over 200 sacred sites around the world, which has been kind of like chanted and prayed across many different weekends from like Khentar Rinpoche and a lot of other monks and a lot of different people which have tuning in into the same events for praying for abundance. And then those days they were there present in this big empowerment event that happened about a month ago. No, maybe 2 months ago. I don't remember. Anyway, and then they sent them to all the people that participated from distance. And so it just arrived like a week ago.
Yay! So there were even people like who were very affluent. They wanted people who have totally, removed obstacles like some of us have. I also want to say some of these obstacles keep us pure of mind. There's some people are very greedy. It's sometimes you have an astrological block that's just waiting for the time when you're right to go fast. So I also really want you to also explore sometimes that maybe you're just waiting for your time. Okay. So Khentar Rinpoche chanted, and they made the certain situation that was including the astrology of everybody that was present. So that basically was asking to clear any of our blocks to longevity and abundance. And those of us who've been there, massive things happen. Mike has been experiencing huge things, and just things have landed for us. Yeah, just like boom, because this is powerful magic, Tibetan magic. So I don't know if they'd like us calling it magic, but it is. So we are very, very blessed because Francesco is there holding one. Francesco, do you want to say where you are right now?
I am in Roslin, so on the Rose line, and just close to Edinburgh, and it's a quite powerful place as well. I guess for the archetype of kind of death and rebirth, is kind of we're very close to Belton, and it's kind of like the place of like the super strong archetype of the green man, but also like the heart medicine of the union between the green man and the May Queen, and it's got a good kind of like chunky energy.
And so it's, in theory, it's on the Rose line as well. And there's a lot of work been happening in the last few days and weeks on the Rose. So also it's about opening ourselves to give and receive. And that's coming into like a pure Hathor energy. So it's not so stuck in mine and yours and all of that. So there's actually 2 sisters on a very strict dieta of rose medicine. They began last night, and they're weaving in with us as well. So there's a lot going on. And then Francesco's is there on the Rose line. So yeah, there's more. There's so many layers of this that where to start and where to end. Okay, so that was a bit about the fact that we've got this micro macro story, and we want to work with us as a constellation to deconstruct, because some of us are feeling tired. We're like, I've been giving for the last 4 years, I don't sleep, I have spirits going through my body, I'm getting tired, I'm having to eat badly, I don't get time for me, I'm on benefits and I'm in service and this is just getting silly. So there's a lot of that going on for a lot of spirit workers. And anyway, we'll let you all tune in, but it would be great to just bring us into a frequency together. So I'd love for you all to just check in with each other, and really connect with each other's hearts, and just scan everybody while I just open space. So I really want to give gratitude to the traditional owners, ancestors, and ancients of all the lands that we're in. And give gratitude to Mother Earth and Pachamama energy. And asking the planetary frequencies to be with us today in their highest form. I call upon our higher selves, our monad selves, and our avatar selves to be with us in the ever-present now, so that any clearing that we do is helping us to understand karmic streams we may have come into or may be ripening in our field. And also so that any shifts that take place ripple through our multidimensional being, through our past lives, or through into our more avatar self, so that we can clear this and clean this for the greater good, utilizing ourselves as microcosms in this powerful time. I also give gratitude to all our ancestors and wish to acknowledge the hardships they endured. And we're often afraid of the negative shadow aspects of our ancestors, or us, because we are our ancestors. And I wish for that to be opened into a clear lens today, so that if there are things that are causing us to be obstructed from the abundant flow that is around us, that we can see and clear those and be mindful of them. So I just want to acknowledge our ancestors, acknowledge the hardships that they suffered, because many of the things that they did that might be seen as naughty came through lack. I also want to give gratitude to all the high vibration multidimensional beings who are here for our highest and greatest good in all timelines, dimensions, frequencies, and realms. And I ask that this clearing ripples from the lands we're in through the unseen realms, and actually through to the 3 times. I give gratitude to each of you here as a microcosm in a constellation at this time, who are here to express and come into free will and autonomy, to assist us to step into a higher time where we're flowing seamlessly, giving and taking in a way that helps us to unite with our highest dharma and service. Gracias, gracias, gracias. The space is now open. Okay, so who has got something to say on the back of that? I've also made notes of what you've all said in Facebook, so we'll look at that too. Who's feeling stuck, or did anything get you, what I said? Lisa? Oh, can't see you, Lisa. Can somebody else jump in?
I'll jump in if that's okay.
Yes, Angelita, thank you.
Yeah, so as soon as I saw this, I thought I needed to be here. And just what you were saying just then about ancestors, and what popped up for me just then was it's a story, but I still have to find out how true it is, but it felt true when I heard it, that my ancestors who started off in Scotland and then ended up in Jamaica were deported for stealing. I've since heard another story, so I'm still looking at it, but when I heard that first, it felt true to me. yeah, and my own childhood, my own upbringing was one of lack. It was one of poverty, just never enough. Yeah, and I still feel that does still, it stops me, even though I know and believe that everything is available. There's still something that stops me from having all of that.
So let's just tune in to your ancestors, Angelita. And if any of you feel that you might, I think we all had those ancestors somewhere. It just might not be ripening at the same time. So can we all maybe tune in? I mean, we see so many people. You see stories of a person who got put in prison for 10 years because they stole a loaf of bread because they were hungry. You know, that was the times that, not that far back, you know, and that's people labeled as a criminal, but they did steal, and then something, you know, and then it becomes a snowball as well. So let's just really hold space for that, because and do some clearing around that, okay? And if anybody knows Medicine Buddha, they can also be doing a mantra or connecting with Medicine Buddha. And if anybody wants to say anything within the stream while we're clearing on that, you may, if anything comes to mind or you see a vision or anything.
Can I say, can you hear me, Vicky? Yeah. I just felt really strongly that kind of one of the good things, even if we don't know what Medicine Buddha is blue, is that sometimes it's really good. Like right now, we could imagine Medicine Buddha like on the crown of our head. And Medicine Buddha, as Vicky said, there are different Medicine Buddhas that have different functions. They made different promises to help living beings. So basically what happens is there's our main Buddhist Medicine Buddha, and then there's the other Medicine Buddha. And so we can imagine that as we're clearing, if we feel like those rays of light are going through our system and clearing, and then they're clearing out from our heart and clearing out into the collective. And we've got that to share.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And when I was looking earlier and Angelita was talking, I was like, it's so easy to visualize Medicine Buddha by looking at her jumper. A slightly different shade, but not far.
I can't see Angelita.
Angelita's got the most beautiful, vibrant in blue jumper on. So it's like our elder on the call has got
well, Angelita jumper. Is like Medicine Buddha. Angelita has Medicine Buddha energy, you know.
Bring it on. Thank you, Lisa. Angelita, can you use your body and your sense to look at, is there a vibration where you can feel, okay, ancestors stole, what comes from that? What do you instantly feel? And what do you feel? How do you feel that constriction then is around your field and the feeling, so that we can look at the energetics?
So it feels like a thread, but stronger than a thread, like a cord almost, that has travelled down the family line, certainly my dad's line. I don't know about my mum's. And it's still got a hold. That's the only feeling I can get with it. Yeah, it still has a hold on me, on my immediate family, on some of us anyway.
Sure. Can you, Angelita? I just need a tissue for my eye, but if you guys can start in a second, maybe start to say some of the, when you say it's got a hold on you, some of the statements that might seem a little less positive that come out as a result of that.
All the old ones that my mother used to say: money doesn't grow on trees. Nobody's going to come and give you money for doing nothing. You have to work hard for it. It's all right for other people. They've got money. We never did.
So this was something that was coming through, just even when you're speaking, but just looking at the whole field, is that there's this kind of sense of injustice, which is very tangible. We can look at the 1% that's still here. So can we all maybe tune in to that, how we interact with that injustice, and see, and really call in the multidimensional self and try and bring it back, because it's not just this generation we've had to deal with that. Sure. And how we interface with that injustice.
Just to say, usually when I'm facing unfair and injustice, I am usually always the one that takes the responsibility.
Madalena, we can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I was saying that when I'm in a unfair or an injustice situation, I am usually always the one that takes the responsibility and deals with the consequences of it.
So there's a sense with a lot of energy workers, and this is maybe what you're speaking of, Madalena, of being a bit fed up of it always comes back to us to, do the heavy job. A lot of us didn't contract in to have recognition in this lifetime, but it's the fact that some people seem to be doing a lot of the work, and the body starts to get tired, and it's like, and then sometimes we're sleeping on floors, and and these basic things that other people take for granted, we don't necessarily have. And some of this is connected to past life, maybe as a renunciant, like being a monk or whatever. Some of it is to keep us real, maybe, to remember not to get too attached. But it's very important that we have what we need now for the next chapter. So can we look to, I would like somebody else to speak a little on this, because I know quite a few of you have been working with this recently, and I would like for us to do some clearing on it. Particularly thinking Ireland or Australia?
Sorry, yesterday I caught up with one of the girls from up north, the young girl that I've talked to you about a few times. And the other day, she was telling me in and out of Banksia 40 times. She's a year older than my daughter, so she's 14 years of age. And prior to this catch up, she told me that you know, because of my skin, and you know, not liking the skin because people judge you. You walk into a shop, people automatically think that you're going to steal. And she goes, why care about the future? Because my family are drunks, violence, you know, on ganja, smoking, drinking. She goes, that's what I'm destined for. So why do I change? And I said, you don't have to be that. You can change from here. You have the power within you to change. And I said, you know, if you can't find it within, see something else that can kind of like help you to start raising above that darkness, to find your inner strength. And when I was talking to her the other day, she said to me, she talked to her baby sister, and her baby sister goes, I know you're in jail, or I know you're in lockup, but why do you do the things you do? Like, what are the bad things you do? And she goes, baby sister, and she goes, I'll not tell you because I don't want you to go down my path. And she said, Miss Sarah, she goes, I cried. She goes, I cried. And I said, so how do you feel going in Banksia? Like, how do you feel being in there? She goes, oh, miss, I don't like it. She goes, I want to change. If I can't change for myself, I want to be the change for my sister. And I had tears coming down. And I said, I gave her the biggest cuddle. And I said, that's the start of you. You know, I said, sometimes we have our good days and bad days, but I said, if you could keep working towards that, I said, it'll get easier and easier and easier, because there are people out there that believe in you and will do anything for you to be the person that you want to be. And yeah, so when I saw this, that's the biggest thing that comes up for me, and especially working with a lot of kids from different communities. They all hold that like it's, as the lady before, it's like a blockage. It's in your field. They can't get past that because that's all that's drilled towards them all the time. So sorry.
Thank you, Sarah. And this is something, it's connected to what we're going to be doing a little bit later on a different call. There's the ancient aspect of this. Whoever that was, just switch your mood on for a minute. So there's a really ancient aspect of all of this. And when we see the First Nations people who are manifesting this right in front of our face, but who have some of the seed DNA that was with the earth, but now it's being obstructed, they are like a very living mirror of this code. But we all have a little bit of that within us. And I'm just wondering, Sarah, if it would help, because you do have a connection with this young lady. If we connect through to you and to her, but we all connect through to any of the First Nations brothers and sisters, or the ancient parts of our own lineage, to really ask to go into our cellular memory, which holds the key of that, to boost a knowing that liberation and change is possible, and to kind of time travel yourself back, okay? So I'm going to ask you to just hold space for uncomfort in your system and look and open up your ancient self, okay? And Sarah's here representing the tribes with the oldest mitochondrial DNA on the planet, okay? And she has a very deep past life connection with that as well, but she's working directly with them at the moment. I mean, could you switch that off? I think Gila, or whoever that is. Context. Okay, so let's just tune in, because there are ancient DNA codes here, that we need to tune in on. All right. I'm going to share a little piece of code with you all, and it pertains to something we're doing later, but I feel to share it to try to give you a multidimensional understanding. As you know, when something's discovered, when the thought stream of the collective is in an evolution to something else. So certain planets get seen and then they have certain qualities, and it's like a journey we're going into in our collective development. And although it was discovered in September, in the last few days, there have been discussions about a new golden city that's been found in Luxor. That's huge. And they say it's like the biggest discovery in Egypt since Tutankhamun's tomb thing. I might be saying his name wrong. Anyway, so now what's interesting about that is like we're working, and there's a lot of work about how we can liberate the poor and those who are not in their abundant stream. And this golden city that they've just found, the interesting thing about it is it's the first non-pharaonic discovery of a dwelling place where normal people were, okay? And there's going to be more unearthed about that. It's almost like these codes need to be looked at, because we have this question about how are the pyramids built and all of this. And now this less embellished reality, less power distorted reality is only being discovered. So the findings are not there, but they're in the multidimensional field. And there will probably be quite a lot of findings about how poorly people were treated to serve this, this pharaonic dynasty lineage, okay? And more. So it's just to let you know that we're supposed to be unearthing this at the moment, because that's a very key finding in the collective right now that's coming up, and it's coming up for question. Is, so what did the people who weren't royalty do? Okay. And that's why it's really good for you to start to go further into your ancestral DNA and to look at what's sitting there, and to just ask it to show you. So I want to see if, Sarah Riseborough, you had a nice post which was very interesting, just about the kind of the female line, and the expectations around females. And the majority of us here are women. And interestingly, Lisa will know this as well. At the time of the Medicine Buddha being kind of written, it was regarded as being very unfortunate to be reborn as a woman. And it used to be people would be like, we'll pray for you to come back as a man. And everything's changing now. But in the collective thought stream of so many generations, the Buddhist people we work with at the moment are like, God, that was done a long time ago. Just don't worry about that. And they're wanting to train up the women now. But there's a legacy that's sitting in most of our bodies about, oh, it's a woman, oh, it's a girl. And we've looked at that in other calls, but I think it would be good to look at that as manifested in our body. All these generations are like, oh, it's another girl. What are we going to do? And that still happens in loads of countries to this day. We're lucky. That's still a reality around the world. So can we do something, because we can dedicate that to those who are like, oh, it's another girl, who are living incarnated in this time space that we're in. And if anybody wants to say anything about that, if they felt any of that disappointment, even if it's historical, that would be helpful. But Sarah, it'd be great for you to talk first.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I grew up with farming heritage, and I was immediately told I was meant to understand that I would not inherit any land, that I had not any part of power in any of the husbandry or any of the way that the farm lineage. And it was a lot of my upbringing was to find a very useful place for me to be on the farm, tucked away in the office or married off. And that there was an aura of all around my upbringing that was talked about, but never to me. We lived in like poverty. My mum's line, it was like this sort of post-war thing. My mum was darning my tights. I used to go to school with like big those patches and homemade things. And I realized that my dad was a mason, and he'd go to the masons nearly every night, and his pockets were full of money. and he'd buy his friends beer, and he'd give donations in the temple to be seen to be generous and to be to be worthy and to be the best mason he could. And after the storyline, like my block with abundance has been around asking for money in exchange for things that I offer, and I could feel into a memory of when my young friend, when we were like 12, 13, maybe 14, we were desperate for money for some cider and tabs, for cider and cigarettes, to get out of the farm, to get away. And I colluded and said, right, I'm going to take some money. I was really annoyed. I was really angry with my father when I found out how much he kept in it for himself. And we took money from his pockets. And then some years later, I told my partner about this, thinking that he would understand this notion of feeling that things had been kept from me, that the family were constantly in a state of poverty, consciousness, while he wore suits and went away to the Masons. And my ex was really judgmental, and he made a big performance about, well, I can't trust you now, I can't leave money anywhere, you tell me this, what am I supposed to do, my God? And he put a real, like, I felt so misrepresented. It was like a heartbreak that I had that part of me that felt stolen from. And that's what came through with Angelita, that the stealing with the anger of we're stealing things that were stolen from us came through really strongly in when you were speaking. And that was so important, to know that this theft was an act of taking something back that was always felt to belong to them. So, I can say a little bit about my mother's line, or I can leave that. She was a divorcee in the 50s, and she looked after a hotel, and she looked after her father, her elderly father, who was fantastic. It's beautiful. So she was the illegitimate son of Queen Victoria's eldest son, one of many. And he was very proud of this. And he used to dress himself up and stand at the front of the hotel in his suit every day at 3 o'clock. And she carried the shame of that and tried all of her life to be this really respectable woman. She bought beautiful clothes from a local department store, and she set herself up to be constantly in a state of respect. And she bribed policemen with whiskey, and she let staff steal from the cupboards, and she kind of just to maintain everything, while my mother worked in the kitchens for her, and can remember not being fed and wasn't allowed to touch the food that was in the kitchens. So it's like it feels not so much about that I'm telling my story, but this story about mass production and about disconnection from the land, and about the responsibility of theft, the privilege of taking being passed on through these lines, and the shame that sat with that. Thank you. Thank you for...
Thank you, Sarah. So if anybody's got anything that feels connected to that, I do ask you all, this is not a talking ceremony as well. Like, I'm noticing that some of you aren't quite engaged with the field. So we're connecting with our hearts and the field when we do this. So when it's really good to tune in on the ripples of a story, but you'll get more out of this if you actually engage with the field, because that's where the clearing will take place. Okay, so you might be getting some insights, but there's more we can do. Okay, so try to slow yourselves down from using your monkey mind to associate with what's going on, and more follow the threads that are going into your quantum being, so that you can find resonance with it within your own field. All right, okay, and then you're going to get the opportunity to clear something.
Yeah, I'll go next. For me, hi Orla. For me, basically, for this past couple of years, I've realised that basically I work with Ireland as a collective, and I realised that basically doing the energy work through this current lifetime, but obviously in previous lifetimes, there has always been a massive thing of self-sacrifice, whether it's whether I'm sacrificing my life, relationships, obviously my life in previous past lives, but it always has been for the benefit of Ireland and bringing forth the energy work. And what has transpired over this past few years is basically, once again, I've went through this process of self-sacrifice, where now another individual is actually reaping the financial benefits. So that is obviously a very deep wounding that I'm going through at the moment, and it's obviously, realizing that, about the issue of self-sacrificing, but also letting go and understanding the wounds that comes whenever you put in all the work and somebody else is running away with the financial rewards, the acknowledgement. So that could be seen in the collective as, the issue of capitalism. And, so, yeah, so I think just turn that in about regarding the finance and the work that we do, that this is the wound that I personally need to work on about the self-sacrifice. And yeah, it's a big wound. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Orla, because I think there's a lot that as you say, capitalism, it's just like the little invisible people doing the main work, and then the kind of narcissists at the front taking all the credit. So I think we've all got a connection in there to something. So I would love if we spend like a few minutes not talking and just really looking in your body, because you will probably at least one lineage going through you that is totally being spent all their lives, working through that, the little people. I don't mean that they're little people, that was inverted commas. So there's some sort of, there's this imbalance that it keeps coming back to, the martyr code that we've got, it's sat very linked to Christianity and missionaries and martyrs and Jesus and stuff. So there's that, and it rears its head all over the place. And then you have the fact that it's an illusion, some of this. We have this, oh, my poor body, poor me thing, but there's wounds that keep us identified with that. And within the concept of a bodhisattva, they would say like a really super amazing bodhisattva, just as at the point that somebody's like, give me your arm, and they'll chop off their arm and give it to them, that sort of thing. But there's something which prevents a lot of us from going into that level of not giving a shit about our physical material being, to be just totally in surrender to the higher law. And I think this is what we're fundamentally really looking at, is that a lot of us have surrendered a lot. We're not living like normal people, but there's this barrier to totally having surrender and comfort to go the full way. And where's that from? Because there's a lot about the injustice of somebody, reaping the rewards, and it's this sense of injustice, and it is unjust, but why does it hurt us so much? Why does the resentment build when we know we're in service? Why have we got that conditioning, and where's that from? Because the amount of crazy things we do where we blatantly are like, yeah, it's fine, I'm going to open myself up to this crazy energy, and we're okay with that. And then it's these personal things that are what really get us. So where's the short circuit there? Does anybody have any insight?
Can I share something? Like for me,
is it related, Hila? Is it related to my question?
yes, I mean, like you were sharing, and I'm gonna share what's going on for me, and what you're sharing about this, like, surrendering. So for me, when you say about this surrendering, for me, I'm just like sometimes even giving up. Like, I had like kind of difficulty on accepting people having benefit and stimulus check in other country, and here I just like went in a surrender mode but not activated. I was just like, good, Mexico is it's on its own, and we are like really feel abandoned. And when you were sharing about this surrendering, for me it was not this surrendering flow. I was feeling this surrender is like, okay, there are all these big country getting all these capitalists and running there, but it's not distributed in a good way. There is not the poverty here. And also when some sisters were sharing about the Masonic, the church, this thing, I could feel like how much some of us are used to be in these missionary things, and it's important to be in the good but high value surrender. That's what I felt when you say surrender. I was like, yes, I just gave up. I'm tired of asking friends getting stimulus check to send a 5% here to the orphanage or to the project. So for me, it's, I don't know, this surrendering, how to take it now, because I've been in a surrender, kind of, I feel passive mode. And instead, I want to be in the surrender and, okay, let's anyway do it and receiving, because when I'm doing, and now I'm like doing in my masculine strong energy, try to raise funds. I told you we got blessed to be given a land from the Mayan elders here, but then now where are the funds? And I've been pushing on the energy masculine, and my period in this day, I was the most excruciating pain. And when I go and surrender, it's that is this give up surrender. It's like, yes, whatever, Mexico, it's like there is no funds, there is no help, there is no checks, there is no like house given, anything. So for me, I would like to, this what you share was important when you express about the surrender.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
The question that you were asking, to me, if I 0 point that question, I see it as a program, and it just makes me, I can travel quite far back into time. And it was a program and a conditioning that started, I would say, through the churches to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So to 0 point the question, I think if we were to go back to the churches and start to clear that energy there,
Yeah,
that was then programmed into our ancestors and then onto us.
yeah. Would you be up for that, everybody? And this is also where
Yeah.
people have got us tied with the 3D word, the text, the scriptures, where it makes people, people fight because of the meaning of a word in a script rather than the interaction of the community and the heart and the weaving and the dream time. So, and I was really saying that kind of that we call it the patriarchy and the feminine in this particular imbalance. So yeah, Asta, let's go back. So I'm sure you've all got some cellular connection to some sort of churchy vibe. So if you want to, we just go back, and Asta's great at traveling to amazing places. So Asta, we're consenting. So in the spiritual code of equity, are we all in agreement that we don't attach to that program anymore? And if you are, can I say show of hands? Because we'll go to the spiritual code of equity and we'll decree this also. Sarah Law? Just cool. Okay, so as if you do that, and if I'm needed in any way for discussion, but if you just show that we are representatives of the people, it's like this program is null and void.
Mm-hmm.
My womb's really hurting. I would do this.
I'm actually in 38 BC. Okay.
How's that going, Asta?
Good, thanks. Done. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so there are some things that came up in the Facebook group, and I would suggest, and there were definitely ones like we've touched upon a little bit, but being dependent on benefits, which because then that keeps this narcissistic relationship with this hand that feeds me, but a person doesn't ever gain full aspiration, so they're trapped. And then people become trapped because they've got to go every 2 weeks and sign a piece of paper, or as Angelique was saying, you've got to declare all these things and it's not sovereign. And so it would be really nice if each of us makes a statement in the field that's sovereign from any of those control mechanisms to the old patriarchal state and that which was trying to create martyrs from us as expendable objects, really, for the machine. So I would love if some people who have been feeling a little bit non-autonomous because of benefits would like to speak first, while other people think about how they might want to interact, because I was just aware we hadn't covered that properly yet.
I will. Yeah, I shared in the group that I'm kind of half dependent still on benefits. So trying to be self-employed, but needing that support from the state, especially now because of Corona. Like, and it feels like it's keeping me stuck because it's also helping me pay the rent. So if I go away, I have to be conscious of that and have to be conscious of how much work I do. Can't earn too much because they'll just take it away from me. And not being asked to do more work, to travel, and just not being able to do it because I think if I lose my benefits, then I'll lose my house. And this has been going on for quite some time, really. And it's in the ancestor realm. It's happened in 3 generations. So my grandmother was completely dependent after she got ill, and they didn't really have social security then. So when you're talking about the church, she used to go to the church and beg for food and money. And at one point she had to sell her body. She became a prostitute for a while just to live and just to feed her child. She used to burn furniture for fuel, and some days they didn't have anything to eat. And my mum grew up like she had that attitude as well, you need to work hard for everything, and she was like a hoarder. After she died, she'd hidden all this money that we never knew about, which she must have been too scared to spend. And also, when you were talking about the boy and girl thing, she always pushed my brother to succeed and do well, but not me. She could be quite like jealous with me and things like that. And I felt like that affected me in staying, playing small. And on my father's side, apparently his father was a gambler, and he used to like sell all the furniture, and his wife would come home from work and see all the furniture on a wagon being taken away. And there's the whole Irish thing on my mother's side. They all came over from Ireland on the boat, completely penniless, and like had to live in the slums after leaving a beautiful place in Ireland. And I feel like really stuck in the city, and that I would like to live, in the country or near the beach, things like that. I have all these dreams, but I feel like they'll never be fulfilled unless I get out of this mentality and being stuck. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Now I would like to hear a positive aspiration, because now we've heard that we're doing the work we can in the grid. So why don't you actually say what you aspire to?
So I aspire to live in my full potential, that I am worthy of abundance and beauty in my life, and I don't need to rely on the system or benefits. I can be self-sufficient, and I can live in a beautiful place.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to? Matthew, you've got something?
Yeah, about the living on benefits thing. It feels for me very like shameful on one side. There's a big heavy feeling of shame, especially in, like sinking feeling, in the torso. To like I'm a leech on everybody else's hard work or something. And then on the other side of it, it's also like kind of a guilty feeling as well, of that, like Hila had mentioned, there's Mexico and all those other places where there is no benefits, there is no support. And it just feels like, do I even deserve this? But then my aspiration, like my positive aspiration, is just like feel very like comfortably and secure in the fact that I do deserve a livelihood. I do deserve to live freely and sovereignly and independently and abundantly. And I do have something to contribute as well. Like I'm not just a leech on everybody else. Like I am here giving a lot of energy and a lot of work and a lot of love and care. And
I'm wondering how we can kind of somehow in our energetics change it, that it's like when it's there, it's like a little gift and there's no catch. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are doing amazing work and they deserve, because they're like the best social workers under the radar. If you were being paid to do the work you did, you'd be on a lot more money. And I saw this some time ago. I'll tell this story another time, but I was like, well, if anybody ever had to make me do community service, I'm already doing it. So it's a no-brainer. It's just like, I already do it. You can't make me do more. So it's like, so I'm like, I'm going to be suffering about things because I'm doing community service all my life, so in many modalities and lineages, Robin Hood is okay. And even in Tibetan Buddhism, they're like, it's not a no-no to be using something if it's coming to you a certain way, but it's the dependency and it's this bitter pill of not having autonomy. So I'm wondering if we can create a hack that's just like, thank you for the present. and then but have our own grace with it. And I guess the paper filling in, all of that stuff that makes it not feel sovereign is tricky. A lot of the system's going to be overwhelmed for a moment. I'm just wondering if there's a way we can change our field with it, be like, thanks government, but then just be like, just not actually tied up with it. It's this thing where it sucks people. Does anybody want to offer on that a little bit?
What about Vicky? So I personally never received, and I was never open to receive benefits when I lived in London, wherever I lived, because of this awareness of the energy leech thing. But for example, after I have this experience helping so much here, the elders, and stick in Mexico, even if it would be way easier to fly back to Italy, but I stick here really because I wanted to be where I serve the medicine. I work with cacao. I wanted to be here and support. And then 1 week ago, this Mayan elder, I told my situation, and they wanted to gift us a piece of land. So for me, it's maybe also this benefit. If we wake up in the morning and we focus, not when I'm going to receive the benefit, but like the brother was sharing, how can I help today out of my personal sphere, out of my personal family? How can I help this society? But like actively, not just with the talk, actively with the prayer, with the energy, working ourselves. Yes, but for me, it's also working with others, because I was never expecting they would just give it to us 6 hectares like this. It's a big work now. It's even more responsibility. But like, you know, it came, I was putting their prayers sometime. I was trying to figure out how, like many sisters, how I pay my rent, how I do this, how I do. And then I just focus and shift my focus on keep on service and keep on just be the best. And like you share, this is the check-in of gratitude of the government to say thank you. If you do really need, because you have kids and family, amazing, just focus on creating the most empowered kids. So it's my suggestion that's coming, but I never been in that energetic position of getting benefits. I eat 1 per day, and I shrink down my expenses. And like you say, I sleep on the floor, and I become like a monk soon. A monkess, but yes, I must open suggestion.
Thank you, Hila. And I really want to honor you. You have worked so dedicatedly in all these years on the path in service. And I think this is something we have to remember. It doesn't just happen overnight, but we do get rewarded. Micah's just been working her ass off and just suddenly manifested a magic place. And I'm suddenly in a place where I can really create lots of things. But it's been 13 years of no home and lots of floors. And so I think it's very important that we realize that this importance within generosity of giving back and constantly being in selfless service and giving. And it's really tricky when we're stuck in somebody else's head space, which is a governmental head space with forms where you've got to legitimize things, because that it detracts from our remembering of that flow, and it becomes an entrapment often. But we've talked about this before. It's easy to say that, but when you don't have food or an income stream, it's hard. And you know, it's also I've spent quite a lot of time in Mexico over the COVID time, and it's great because they're not depressed or in fear because they can't afford to be. They've got no healthcare. They can't afford pills, so they've just let Corona just do its thing. And there's been a lot of death, but they're just getting on with it. And the thing is, they're still in the heart. And it's a sacred place to be in because you don't have benefits there. People are smiling and they're poor. You know, people lose a lot when they end up in that. But where did the dependency code come in for us, and how can we free from that?
Can I say something? Because it's related, but it's regarding family, because sometimes these dependency codes can be related to family. Many things came through along the call, but there's this one thing that I'm realizing as a pattern, as like in my parents. So everything like when the energy was moving and life would seem to be better, there's this massive explosion that pushes back. and then there's this recovering and everything starts to be well again, and then it pushes back again. And I see that, so it's actually happening with me at this moment right now. So now there was like, okay, everyone like don't really get what I do in my life or anything, and I was just like making it through and like really moving forward. And then there's this thing that pushes me back, and I have to recover from it. But there's also now that I had to, I didn't have to, but I came to my parents asking me for support in this moment. And I mean, there's judgment coming from that, but I also see that as my mother, so my grandparents, is like an unconscious like tidying up the kids, the sons and the daughters, is like in a dependency of the parents. Because I also kind of see that from my grandparents, from my mother's side, but very like very unconscious. And this also brings many like many things, as the dependency as in the government, of like wanting to be self-sufficient and emotional independent and emotional, physical and mental independent, like, and really like being in charge and owning my own life. And that's the aspiration of it. But I mean, it's like this dependency doesn't come from me. It's like something that is coming from the other side, from the judgment, or from the I give you, but you know that I'm judging you, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that we get stuck into the conditionality of stuff. There's no free breakfast or lunch. And yeah, people receive benefits. It's not really a benefit. It's like you're totally incarcerated into a country, you know, and and labeled as something. Or you can have parents and they're like, oh, you know, you're so, oh yeah, okay. But poor you. Yeah, interesting.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
So when about this dependency code, I think it's all about, at least for myself, it's all about what kind of vibration I hold, considering wherever I am right now at this point, with whatever process I've done so far, whatever healing I've done, whatever karma I've accumulated. So where am I right now? What am I receiving and what am I giving? And so whatever I'm receiving, I think that my goal is to kind of stay into the integrity of like resonating with what I want to manifest as a fractal into the world. And so it's not about receiving something, but it's about being a vessel for it. So like when I receive the benefit, because I also receive a tiny bit of benefit, my way of seeing it is like, how can other people benefit from it? If I receive some inheritance from my family of some support, I'm saying, how can I leave in inheritance to the future generation? How can I support my community? If I receive some support from somebody, that's the things like, how can the support enable me to support the whole community? And so there is something about the kind of attitude, which is about planting the seeds that you receive in whatever moment you are. Right now, whatever I got to plant, I plant it without any expectation. I simply go and water it. I keep watering, I keep removing the weeds, I keep clearing it, but I don't have expectation of what it grows and allow it to develop in the way I want. And I practice to be as present as possible, to be of centered enough to hold that watering can even when the storm comes, and to kind of respond in a way that is kind of propositive rather than objectified. And I'm just kind of like, you know, I see a lot of, I've seen a few days like somebody in the bus, like a young person, like a teenager, like 13, 14 years old in the bus. He was talking with his girlfriend, probably like a dealer or something. Say, hey, but I made £6,000 today. Yeah, what is it? Blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like, okay, yeah, probably a lot of people, a lot of generation may have a lot of money, a lot of things, but how are they gonna use them? Like they don't have any place where they're gonna put them. They're gonna put them in something that society tell them that will make them happy, but then it's just gonna be probably still very much degraded into what actually does for themselves and for the community. And I think, yeah, there is something about the process of what we saw and just trusting into the process and just kind of like holding that integrity into what we want to do for the community. And I'm saying like here in Edinburgh now, I'm kind of like trying to focus on, I don't know, starting kind of a community garden with the community and stuff. And it's hard to get people because everybody's like, oh yeah, I've got work, I've got this, or I've got these busy things. And nobody would prioritize what is actually not manifesting money, because it's like somebody needed to take responsibility and we just all hope for that to happen. But who's going to make the first step and to trust and to hold the kind of spiritual energy, which is what is needed most at this time, rather than kind of like trying to do something because that might bring money. And I understand that there's the complexity about like, you know, having to pay things and stuff. But if we are all here right now and we're kind of like, we've got some resources, then I think for me, it's zero pointing and say, we got these resources, I arrive right now, what can I do with these resources with actually remove all the things that people project on these resources and just take what I actually want from these, because it's for everybody, and just project it forward with a vision. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes, so this is more about natural law, which is, I think, what these other systems go out of, and going into more aine, reciprocity that's not got conditions on it or expect something coming back from here or any expectations on it. It's like just an investment to the greater good, and just knowing that we just pay forward in the knowledge that it's going into the right ethers. But then there's a knowing when things aren't coming back and somebody's out of natural law within the framework. So yeah, thank you for that. Lisa, I wanted, you had a nice sharing about rebelling. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah? No?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear you? Okay, all right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I really feel like I want to share a dream that I had this morning, and I'll try and do it very quickly. It is in context of this, because it really, I could feel it in my stomach. It just like it, I woke up feeling sick. And this dream was that I knew I'd been abducted, okay, as a woman. I've been abducted by a very fat old white man, okay, and basically I kind of knew that I could actually kind of get out of this situation if I really had the courage. But there was something that kept me in from this like trauma space of almost freezing and fawning. And I was talking to my partner, who he does a lot of work with like supporting young Black men in masculine rites of passage, and we were talking about this, and I said it felt like, Vicky, like a colonization kind of code to it. But what felt was this sense of shame for me, but this sense of like martyrdom as well with it that was involved in it. And he basically he was in the car, and I knew I could do something. I knew I could get away with it, but I just was so entrenched by this fear of this system. And he started to shave my hair, but not nicely, because as you know, I mean, I live with monks and nuns, so I'm used to shaved head, but it wasn't nicely. This was like shaved in a really haphazard way. And then I was dressed like for me, like a, not like a sort of like in the most unattractive, I can only say this, forgive me, but you know, like you see the Mormon women where they're like in very, like, I don't know, just for me, what seemed like an absolute unexpression of the feminine whatsoever. And that also that I was going to have to, you know, he was going to use me. And there was this sense of like, I was talking to Mike, there was this sense of like I could get away, but I didn't get away. I was in this prison and I had a choice to get away. And of course I couldn't get away. And as you know, Vicky, yesterday was Buddha's Enlightenment Day. So we had huge puja here. And I wonder, you know, because like when Buddha Shakyamuni was getting enlightened, the Maras came and they bought everything to stop him from kind of doing that, didn't they? Which what feels like what's happening collectively now. So I was thinking about this, and that it feels like there's a real fear from a feminine point of view, an ancestral feminine point of view, of not being able to move forward. And also from like having, my grandfather was a Mason, and everything in the family was about, for me, money was about who had the best car, or nobody was ever interested. You were never seen. I was never seen, you know, and especially as a feminine, never seen in that way. It was always like what you can do, what you can present, you know, who are you and what have you. So there was a rebellion, and I know other people have had this, to what I saw the money and energy of money as being quite bad. And so there was some guilt. So for example, when I got a lot of my money from being in a relationship with a very traumatic relationship with a disabled, and anyway, I got this money, I didn't feel I deserved that money. I didn't feel I was worthy of that money. And that 30 grand just went, you know, it just went. I mean, I did lots of good things with it. I did loads of good things with it. I was in service through it, but there was still a part of it that had this like martyr kind of no power. I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this money. And like when, you know, I'm now, it's like, oh, I'm 55 and I'm just living in a Buddhist center, which is great. So, but depending, like the previous person said, I think it depends what you do with your mind with that. So I get paid, I work 24 hours a week, and during lockdown, I've been supporting people in a mental health line through coronavirus, which has been difficult. And so I get £200 benefit. But the way I view that is that that's actually a gift for me, to allow me to do what I want to do. And that I'm starting to understand that once I have the gratitude that, and I can transform my mind. So for example, for me, a lot of that money, I buy food or I cook for the Sangha, and I use it that way, and I dedicate that money specifically as the beautiful thing that I think it was I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, said, you dedicating that money to say, you know, may everybody, I can give this food, but actually I can give this food with my consciousness that may everybody be free from not having any food. May everybody be free from suffering, and to use the energy in with a different intention. So we like following the Bodhisattva path, and we dedicate that merit then. So if people I know, you know, I mean, I don't know, but I know, for example, Andy, it's just like a beautiful heart. And maybe that's just where we are, and accepting that's just where we are, rather than it being something bad. But if there's something underlying, obviously that's what we need to clear first. That's what we need to clear first, because I had realized I had quite a bit of ego in how I project
I'm not not sure if other people, and Lisa, it's breaking up a lot.
I don't know how I make money with that. That's my, yeah, and I feel it is about changing, and that gratitude thing. But for me, there's so much pain there with the masculine, and wanting to feel accepted by the gaze of the masculine, you know, wanting to be accepted by that, and playing into that, being with the big fat white man, really, the patriarchy. But just, I think maybe this is so beautiful, just bringing some awareness to it. It maybe just starts to shift. I hope so. But my benefit, I dedicate it. I'm like, thank you. I actually say it's very kind. I'm choosing it to look as very kind of the people to give it me, rather than it me being stuck in a system. I'm choosing, you know what, it's my karma. And it's very kind that I can get that money, and I haven't got a problem with that money because I know what my intention is to do with that money.
I agree. I have a very similar attitude.
Asta, did you want to say any more? There was something that I feel was very much touched upon with Lisa's dream, and I'm just going to give a little weaving to it. And then I think this should be the last bit of code, because we're going to be working a bit on this later. So I have a sister who sent me a post that she'd seen on a group last week, and we'd been talking about some of these things the other day. And somebody had written on the group, I think the shadow of the feminine is fawning on people, fawning all over people. And we'd been kind of laughing about people who go into healing spaces or are too busy trying to rescue and fawn over people, than the people don't get to actually have their process and do their own work, which is where the victory comes. And then they said, and the shadow for the masculine is the patriarchy. And Asta, maybe you want to touch slightly upon, we're looking really at when in the hallmarks of PTSD, often somebody who's been raped often over-identifies with the rapist, and it's quite up. There's people writing articles about it even this week. And at what point are we kind of stuck in the headlights, that we're kind of like Lisa's dream, kind of just like that, unable to move, with this strange relationship with, we'll call it a perpetrator, but it's all perfect because it's bringing us to this time. I don't want to go into duality. I'm just looking at what we need to unpick. Okay, so I don't want to get anybody stuck in baddies and goodies right now. It's just stuff that's shifting now. So Asta, would you like to share a little bit? Does it feel like a right time to share a bit on that?
Gone a bit blank really, so. Okay,
then not. Well, just basically, it can be good for us to look at where we are paralyzing ourselves, and to unravel the trauma body. And to go, I mean, this is where we're at now. We're all in this massive trauma clearing. And the COVID thing is brilliant because we're all in this story together. And to not over-identify with that energy, because that's old trauma code. And I don't know how we overcome that, but that's a hallmark. And it's funny that Lisa used the word fawning, and that's come up several times in the last week or so. So these kind of paralyzed people, and it's we talked about it actually with Madalena, with the other group the other week. We were talking about PTSD, and just people will over-identify, and then they actually start to sometimes see the rapist as like a hero, because they've maybe been abducted and hidden for a long time. And we can see this with, I can give an example of Indigenous Australia, where there's a very, very dodgy playing out where the Aborigines become very dependent on the white fellas for the money. And like this, and it's like, it's just the trauma playing out, and it's something that happens. It's there's a neural thing going on there, and maybe, if, as Lisa said, maybe it's about the mindfulness around it, to see maybe when we get paralyzed in that, because we get stuck in time and then we can't move out. And yeah, it's going back to narcissism codes, because the narcissist often will groom someone, be like, you need me to survive, or things like that. And I'm not saying anybody's bad or good, because it's the awareness that's going to help us to go to the next level. So we've been on for about an hour and a half. Is there anything anybody like to put in so that we close this, so that we can, anything else that's come to mind?
Yeah, something that's been coming up for me is it's to do with when you're at service. Like the way I've been feeling is I'm on a community. It's growing quickly. We've gone from 250 people to probably nearly 350 people. I feel like there's a massive lack of awareness, and energetically, it has been placed on the light grid. I've been a part of setting that up, and it feels like the community's falling apart. It's just a massive upheaval. And I'm kind of looking around for support, for people that can stand strong by my side in those crazy, chaotic moments. And I'm feeling very alone. And I would love to bring in abundance. And I know that a lot of us are feeling that way. There's this, I feel like there's a very strong sense of loneliness on our spiritual journeys for a lot of us. And I'd love to bring abundance into the field on that level, where we're feeling more supported. Those that are awake and doing that work are gravitating towards each other. Something that I've been shown is for the times to come, we're to form pods, these little pods, and those pods are energy, people, little pods of energy that are people that create a beacon of light. But we're all so busy that to even try and come together is getting harder and harder. So I'd just like to see more abundance on that level.
So maybe we just all sit together for a little minute. We've done some clearing, so there's some space in our system. And knowing that this sacred treasure vase is with Francesco, and that there's one on the magnetic island with Lydia Lakshmi, who is connected, even though it's not here, but we've got one. And just connecting yourselves to knowing that there is more wealth in the universe, and the miracles are here. We've got several people in the last few weeks here who have manifested the next step to the dream through giving, through service, and it coming back when they least expected it. Okay, just knowing that when we go into true giving into the natural law system, and maybe that's more about what it is when we're into the natural law system, that actually it comes back very quickly, and the quickening is here. And just, if there's any parts of you that don't feel that you feel very convinced about that, let those be felt, so that we can do a last bit of clearing on that before we close. Okay. And if there's something that comes up that you're like, yeah, but, then say your yeah, but. feel it's important to give your body and your being permission to know it goes beyond script and text. That which is decreed on paper as the law is not the law. And to let your ancient being remember that there was a time that it's very close to where everything was connected to the true law. Because then you are in a position to step into the Dharma path and to do like Lisa does, say thank you for it and not have the shackles, because it's where you've been educated or your family were that piece of paper means something. That's where they got you. Okay. So you can change, you can alchemize this, you can play with it, because you can come in with your historic multidimensional self and know that there was a time when we didn't have these decrees and scripts and piece of paper. So you can accept a gift, but you don't have to be tied by the piece of paper.
Can I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's also not like the piece of paper is the end. It's almost like it's the goal or something that a lot of people focus on. And for me, it's a general perspective about not being the goal or the arrival or the number in the bank account or the house, but it's the process and every single moment and what we do with that. And this feels quite important to where I'm going in the next hour. There's a big things happening, and I do need to leave, but as a big kind of process that's going to happen. So just kind of remembering that.
Thank you. Sure.
I just wanted to say thanks for Francesco and Sarah and a few people's other insights. It's made me think, without the gift of benefits, I wouldn't have been able to go to India, be in service, and I wouldn't be able to be doing the work I am now with recovery people. So yeah, it's given me, a new way of looking at it. Thank you.
Cool. I hope this was useful to you all in some way. And yeah, we're going to close the space now. I'm going to keep it open energetically for you and your guides and the integration, because also there's another piece of work going on. But if you wish to tonight or tomorrow morning, just say, okay, I give gratitude to my ancestors, gratitude to my multidimensional self and the land and the field. And just to 0 point yourself when you feel from this, because sometimes there's more rewiring to go. So I would suggest at least for the next 3 hours, you keep your space open, but I ask you as a sovereign to close it, okay? And I'm going to stop recording. You want to give gratitude to you all for coming, and we'll be doing some more quantum transfiguration in like late May or early June. We'll do another set of 4. I've said if anybody has an idea, something's really coming through, I will put one of those in. We'll go back to doing some with the gene keys. We're going to be doing more genetic stuff. But yeah, and maybe it's another layer of this. I know it's a biggie, so I'm happy to think about that.